Cool. You're up
Cool.
first.
Hi. Am I chained? I'm a little chained here. This should be
No,
fun.
you have 24 feet
Oh, I have
to
20. I'm
walk.
not that chained, so
Yeah,
just
I
don't
know.
walk to the back of the room. Okay. All right. Cool. Hi, I'm Betty Berning, and I'm really creative. So I started consulting this last year, Betty Berning Consulting. One of my good friends was like, just pick a name already. She's like, you have alliteration. This is good enough. Go with it. So, um, like Jolene shared, I worked in extension for a number of years, and prior to that, I worked at General Mills. I was a senior buyer, and I worked a variety of different roles there. Most of my tenure at General Mills was spent buying dairy for their Yoplait brand. We also had the Totino's Party Pizza. And yes, there are dairy products in the Totino's Party Pizzas, believe it or not. Not a lot of real cheese in all of them, but that was part of my responsibility. And then there is a lot of dry whey that goes into baking mixes. So that was part of my portfolio as well. My last role at General Mills was in sustainability, which is a whole nother conversation. It was not as bad as it sounds, though. We'll leave it at that. Today, though, what I'm going to talk about is identifying and selecting the right opportunities for your farm. So when I started consulting, people are like, well, what do you consult on? My goal is to work with farmers that want to start value added ventures on their farm, and to help them come up with a plan to do that. I also do some work with food companies, helping them, like I shared, with sustainability and supply chain opportunities. So when farmers approach me and they're like, well, I want to start doing this, but I don't even know where to start, right? Some of you might feel that way, or maybe early on in your journey you felt that way, like, what what should I be doing, or what? Here's how I like to break it down. You need some ideas, right? You need a plan around that. And then finally, you need to see Amanda and her friends and get some money. And hopefully you have some too. Is this working? Oh, thank you. This is better. Now I can really walk around. Okay. We'll see. This will be funny if I trip over the cord. That might happen actually. So we'll see. All right. So let's start out with the idea. Turn on. Probably. Turn it on. It's on. Haha, I can be taught. Okay, so first thing, brainstorm ideas. What is possible? And there's a lot of things you can do. I think oftentimes we either are an idea person and, like, we got a laundry list of things we want to do, or we feel like, I know what I want to do, or why bother brainstorming? It's really important when you start out to make that long list. Write it all out there, because you never know what might come up in your thought process as you're going through that. The other important part of brainstorming ideas is talk to people. Ask your business partners, right? Obviously, what do they think you should be doing? Ask your banker. Not what should I be doing, but what do you think might be interesting? Ask those people that you trust for ideas. You might think about, hey, I want to start an ice cream plant, or something else you can do, and maybe you haven't thought about this. If you want to do something value added on your farm, like start a food processing plant, which it sounds like that's kind of a lot of people's goal in here, and that's a great goal. You really got to have an entrepreneurial mindset. You got to be ready to change. Some of the farmers I meet with, sometimes you have this conversation. Well, I want to start something different, but I don't have any more time. I don't have any more money, and I can't make any big changes on the farm. You got to have an entrepreneurial mindset if you want to do something like start a food plant. But okay, so let's say you are that person. There still may be opportunities for you out there. These are hops, right? So I was talking, I did my grad work at Penn State, and I was talking with one of my old colleagues, who works in extension for Penn State, and I'm like, what do you all do? Because she does quite a bit in the value added space. She's like, you know what I do with the farmers like that? I tell them to diversify. I tell them, get into vegetables. Or she's like, poultry has gotten really big out here. So we have these dairy farms that have poultry barns. So it's something to consider. Is it really food processing that you want to do? Or is it simply like the title of this program says, I don't want to add more cows? Okay, don't add more cows. Do you have the land base to do something different that might give you a greater revenue stream? You also could, do everyone's favorite, convert to grass-fed or organic, but there's lots of ideas. What could you do? What is different and unique? And this is why the ideas are so important, because you might be thinking, I got to get into food processing, right? That's what everybody's doing right now. That's what I need to do too. Maybe not. Maybe it is as simple as I'm going to go grass-fed and I got a buyer. Or, you know what, I could grow some specialty crops. I'm in a good area and this could work for me. So think about all the ideas. Don't rule them out. We will rule them out eventually. Step 2 in the idea phase. Select the criteria that's going to help you evaluate and identify any potential deal breakers. So here's where you just want to think about, as I make my decision, what's going to be important to me? What are your business goals? What are you truly passionate about? Some people are super entrepreneurial. So, having a bunch of people come to their farm every weekend to give tours and buy their products, like that sounds exciting to them. For other people, that terrifies them, right? I can think of people I know that are like, no, I don't want people on the farm ever. Not because I'm not doing a good job, but it's just not my thing. So you need to figure out, what are you passionate about? How much time do you have? You might have a younger generation coming onto the farm. Maybe you are the younger generation. You might have some time. Or you might not. You might be strapped. You might be a one man or a one woman show. So think about that. How comfortable are you running a business? Not just a dairy farm, but a business. And all of the speakers today have said this. You need to figure out who's going to take care of the cows, who's going to market, who's going to be making your product. So how comfortable are you with all these pieces, and can you figure out who could do it within your operation? What's your risk tolerance, both personally and for a business? There are some people that are like, I want to make as much money as possible. And you all may be thinking, that's me. No, it's not everyone, because that making as much money as possible sometimes means taking on a lot of risk, and not everybody wants to take on that much risk. For some people, they want to find the surest thing. I wasn't supposed to use that word, Jolene, I'm sorry. She's like, don't change it to consistent. It is a word, but it's a terror. After I thought about it, I'm like, she raises a very valid point, and now I just said it without thinking about it. Some people want a consistent revenue stream, right? They just want to know that every month I'm going to get this or that, or I want to be able to see my path. I'm not just trying to buy a lottery ticket and hope that it pays off big. I want a consistent revenue stream. So think about your risk tolerance, and risk is more than money too, right? It's risk to your farm as well, risk to your production. There's all sorts of different types of risk. So risk tolerance, and what do you think people are going to buy too, right? And these are not the only questions. I just made a quick list. Think about what it is that's really going to be important to you with whatever it is you want to do. And if there are any deal breakers, write those down. So what's a deal breaker? It's something that really you cannot do. For example, let's say you only have 100 acres. You are not going to have 500 acres of vegetables then. You can't probably expand your land base unless you move. So if you can't move for some reason, maybe your spouse has a job in town and they said, I'm not moving. Okay, that's a deal breaker. You have to work with the land that you have. Things like that. So pick your most important 3 to 5 criteria and assign weights. So after you've done all this, what is most important to you in this new venture? Is it that I just want a consistent revenue stream? Is it that I want to be able to have more customer interaction? Whatever it is, pick your top one and then pick a few more and give them weights. In our next, ta-da, we make a scorecard. So this was a tool when I was at General Mills. We used this a lot. And I can tell you about some of our product launches where maybe there was not as much foresight put into. We had a vice president of one of our divisions who loved sweets, and this person was in charge of, it was a division that sold a lot of sweets and baked goods. And yeah, we would launch products. I'm not joking, not often, but there were a couple we launched that this vice president tried and was like, this is amazing. People will buy it. It tastes so good. And they were amazing. It was so good, but there were all sorts of like shortcomings, and the product wound up being discontinued 12 to 24 months after it hit shelves, even though it was a great product. So it's really important to vet your ideas. And I heard everybody say this like right away. You don't go in a month, right, to making cheese or whatever it is. Siggy's, right? It took 15 years to get to where they are today. So use a scorecard, and you can write down your top ideas that you had, whatever the ideas are. I only had 3 here, but you probably will have more, and then your criteria, and give them weights. So here I just said a 1 was, it doesn't meet the criteria at all. So this person, they have limited resources. and access to capital, and they're pretty risk averse. So that might be you. There's a lot of farms that I know are in tough spots right now. That might be you. So what is it that you can do? Well, I need a consistent revenue stream because honestly, if I want to keep farming and keep doing what I'm doing, I just need to be bringing in money. So I need consistent revenue stream. That's important to me. I also don't have a lot of time. I'm a one-woman show. That's it. And I can't take on any more risk. I already am strapped for cash. So you can see starting a day camp on my farm, probably not a good idea. Converting my dairy to organic, that might be an option, right? Doesn't require a ton of capital, at least relative to my other options. Not a huge amount of time, some time, and relatively low business liability. I could make a product on farm to sell to grocery stores. Well, that is a big question mark, right? Might take off, might not. Going to take time to learn all these new skills, and there's a liability. So, ta-da! By doing this, you can kind of start to winnow out the ideas. You may, after this step, have a few ideas that kind of float to the top. That's okay. Keep researching or do another round of the scorecarding. Another really quick example. Here's a totally different farm. This farm is not afraid of risk at all. They're going to go big or go home, right? The people on the farm love working with customers. They do open houses, all that stuff. Here, a day camp makes a lot of sense, right? They can lean into some risk. They have the availability of time. They want to work with people. So this winds up being a good option. The takeaway from these two slides is it really depends on what's important to you. So what is it that you think you can do? What is it that you're passionate about? And then you can start to sort out your idea. Another thing you can do with these scorecards that can be interesting, if you don't like numbers, just give them colors. Red, yellow, green. Green means it's going to work, fits well with your criteria. Red means it doesn't work. Then you just look and you see, oh, these are mostly green. These are mostly red. Here's my idea. And you might laugh at this. We actually, when I was at General Mills, we used that a lot in meetings with vice presidents to make a point. Hey, this one's all green, so we want to do this. And they'd be like, all green. Yeah, we should do that. That's a good idea. So that's another way to frame this up. Okay, so step 4, now we're moving into plan. You need to conduct a marketplace assessment, right? And I like to joke, Field of Dreams, who remembers Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come, right? That is not how this works. If you make a product, they may or may not buy it. So this is not Field of Dreams. It'd be nice if it was, but it isn't. So you need to conduct a marketplace assessment. And again, I painted some pretty broad brushstrokes here, but who are you going to sell to? So if your goal is to sell cheese off of your farm and you live in a town of 500 people and you are 300 miles from a major metropolitan area, you really need to rethink that, right? Who is going to come and buy this cheese? Nobody lives close to you. If, however, you're, close to Rochester and you got a huge metropolitan base near you, this could work, right? So who will you sell to? And maybe you really do want to sell cheese, even though you live in a town of 500 people and you're, a gazillion miles from anywhere. Can you do it online? What are the other options? How can you kind of sort through this? So who will you sell to? How are you going to reach them? And again, we've heard all the speakers say, you better get comfortable with marketing. It's true. Customers want interaction, and you have to let people know what it is that you're doing. So how are you going to do that, and who's going to handle it? Where are your customers located? What are your pricing goals? What does that mean? You're like, to make as much money as possible, silly, right? Well, kind of. Are you going to have a premium offering, and what makes it premium? Or are you going to be selling something that's maybe a little more commodity-like? Okay, then you're going to get a lower price. So you need to think about that. I like the apple orchard example here. If you think about how they price apples at the apple orchard, they have, like the really banged up bruised apples. They're cheap. It's obvious they are not premium. And then they have like all the nice polished ones, right, in the half pack bag, and they're big and they look beautiful. Those get a premium price. So think about that as you think about pricing strategy. If you want to charge more, you really got to have a good story to sell it. And you might have a good story. I think, Jolene, I think you're the one that told me this. Do you have the friend that was hand milking cows? I hope that's okay. I said your name. Yeah, but think about that. Like, I'm hand milking cows and I'm making the butter. That sounds crazy to me personally, right? That sounds like a lot of work, and like we've made so much progress since then. But there are markets that might be interested in paying for that, and if they are interested in paying for that, you can charge them a premium, right? So there's another example of what's the premium that that person can charge. Well, they're hand milking cows. Nobody else does that, right? And the person that's going to buy this, probably has the money. I know it's a good chuckle, right? My friend at Penn State, she was saying she has a sister in Atlanta, and she's like, "Oh, they have milk in Atlanta. You guys probably have seen this. They have milk in Atlanta, and it's like by breed of cow you can buy it." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." And she's like, "Well, there's a lot of wealth in Atlanta." So she's like, "If you're by a big metro area where there is wealth and you got to know your market, you can sell some of these premium products." I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, but think about your pricing strategy and who it is you're going to be selling to. And there are markets for almost everything. You just have to figure out how to connect with them, right? And find a way to them. And then who are your competitors? And is that you, Jeff, that was talking about, yeah, running into each other, or how can you work with your competitors? Think about that. If, you're Jeff's neighbor, cheese curds maybe aren't the best thing for you to get into, right? Okay, so conduct a marketplace assessment. And you know what might happen in this step? You might realize like this great idea you had, like, actually, I don't have a great market for this. That's okay. Go back to your scorecard. What else is possible? Or rethink the strategy. All right, I'm going to sell my cheese online. Great. Step 5, write out a business plan. So what is a business plan? A written document from Investopedia, right? A very highly scholarly and reputable source. A written document that describes in detail how a business, usually a new one, is going to achieve its goal. And this is not for most people, for people like Nathan and me who are on the ag business management team, we live and breathe writing. We love writing business plans, right? But for most people, this isn't the most pleasant process. It's really important because this forces you to think about what it is you want to do. So why do I need a business plan? Your banker will probably want to see it. I used to work in lending it feels like a long time ago now. A long time ago, we'll say that. I worked in lending, and yeah, I would have farmers come to me and they'd say, "I want to do whatever, and I think I can make it work." And it'd be young farmers too. And at the time, it really broke my heart. Even now, it's still kind of a bummer of a deal. These were people who I knew could be successful, but they had no capital and they didn't have a plan, a way to kind of see how they were going to get to being successful. So your banker's going to want to see it. You need to think about your business. When I started the consulting business, I wrote a business plan. And guess what? It's a work in progress. I continue to update that business plan. You can't just guess. Write it all down. And that's how you'll start to sort out some of these details that all our speakers have talked about. Not only that, it's recommended for new and expanding businesses. And then finally, this is a good tool that you can use to communicate even within your business. So I don't know how to write a business plan. That might be what you're thinking right now. These tools can help. So agplan.umn.edu, that's developed by the Center for Farm Financial Management at the university. This is an awesome tool. I love to tell people to use this because it's so easy. It has all the parts of the business plan. And if you're like, I still don't get what an executive summary is, it says I need one, you can click, is it templates? It has examples of what that should look like. So you literally can read it or you can copy and paste it and then rewrite it to fit your business. It's a great tool. Check it out. The Small Business Administration also has a business plan tool. I've utilized that one as well, and I think it's a pretty solid tool. They're very similar. The ag one's a little more focused on the type of thing that you're going to want to do. So here are the different parts of a business plan. Basically, it's kind of the blueprint. It tells you what you're going to be doing. And Jolene was telling me 2 minutes ago I had 5 minutes, so I won't spend a lot of time on this one. Finally, you need to identify your sources of capital. And Amanda talked a lot about that, but there's a lot of places you can find money, right? Your banker, if you have a good relationship, that's one option. There's grants. Minnesota is extremely friendly to value-added agriculture. There's crowdfunding. What is crowdfunding? So you hear Kickstarter a lot, so I threw their logo up there. Many people will provide small amounts of capital to fund a business, and usually sometimes it's in exchange for some equity or some sort of like reward. So maybe they get the first run of something or whatever it might be. Microloans, This one doesn't come up quite as much. It's a lot like crowdfunding, but many people provide capital and you need to repay that back to them. Usually it's low or no interest. Kiva is an organization I found that does it here in the United States. They do have requirements for what can be funds can be requested for, but that's one. Or you. Most bankers want to see that you're putting some skin in the game. Okay, so I will wrap up. Nathan put together a great resource packet, and Jolene and team said make sure you mention that. So please pick up a resource packet for more information and ideas. If you're interested in talking with me more, thank you for letting me speak today. I will be here. I have a website you're always welcome to check out, or you can email me too if you have questions just kind of on getting the process started. Does anybody have questions for me right now? Yeah.
Confidentiality agreement. We go into the bank, we propose buying more cows, a tractor, whatever. We have this plan. But when we did ours, we were having actually our lenders and stuff sign confidentiality agreements because we came up with kind of a unique plan.
So the question is, do I recommend having a confidentiality agreement? If you think that you need it or you have concerns about your information being shared, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Depending on, we had different levels of confidentiality at General Mills, depending on the project. So there were some things I could communicate with suppliers. There were some things I could not communicate at all with my suppliers. There were some things I couldn't even communicate internally outside of my team. So yeah, depending on what you're doing and the trust level, absolutely. Other questions? Yes. So I want to reiterate that into the microphone. So Becca mentioned that it's great to go after the premium pricing, but all consumers, even those, and she said the research supports it, those that are low income or food stamps are even making purchasing decisions outside of price. So consider all consumers as you're making your pricing strategy. Many consumers will pay more than just a commodity-based price, and I would say that's true. I agree. It's fun to dream big and think, oh, I'll just hand milk cows and rich people will buy my product. Realistically, what most people do though is you want to try to appeal to as many people as possible so that you can sell as much product as possible, right? But that's a really excellent ad. Thank you, Becca. Other questions? I see Jolene coming up here. I think she has a hook and cane. Haha. Thank you.